Roll for Crit is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Come roll with us at patreon.com/rollforcrit.
So, you've been eaten. That's the name of the game we're taking a look at for this preview video. In it, you will take on the role of either a space miner trying to gather up the resources as quickly as possible, or the space beast who is trying to digest the miner as quickly as possible.
Your gameplay in So You've Been Eaten is going to be very different depending on whether you're playing as the beast or as the miner. And we're going to start by explaining the miner's turn. They are going to have 3 action dice, and at the start of their turn, they will roll all 3 of them and see what different numbers they get. And then they're going to assign those dice to one of the available actions in their little play area. Depending on what number it is and what action it is, there will be a slightly different effect, but you can take the same action multiple times or not even assign all of your dice if you don't want to, although normally you're going to want to. The 5 actions are as follows. Of course, you have an adjust action at the top. If you take that, that allows you to set one of your other dice to any number that you want. So if you're really, really desperate for a specific number, you'll always have the option to give a die up in order to get it. Then at the bottom, you can see is the upgrade action. This allows you to make your main 3 actions in the middle that we'll get to next stronger. You need to place a die of the matching number onto one of those 3 spots, and it allows you to upgrade that specific action, making it a little bit stronger. Now, the 3 specific actions that you're going to be basing most of your turn around are in the center. We'll start with, from the left, Stun. Stun allows you to push back some of those stomach cards in the center there in that digestive tract board to help you set up certain combos or get them further away from you. There are different reasons for that you'll probably understand better after we explain the beast. And the number you place there corresponds to which card you're going to be pushing back. So if you placed a 1, you push that first card in the lineup, and you can push it back as far as you want. It's up to you, depending on what the situation is and where you want it to be. The stun action has another benefit. After you take it, you get to adjust one of your other remaining dice up 1 number or down 1 number. And you'll notice that there are 7 spaces for stomach cards. So in order to hit that last one, you're going to need to adjust a 6 up to a 7 in most cases. So that's a good way to do it. Of course, these are 6-sided dice, so there is not actually a 7 side, but theoretically, you just have to know that that number is now 1 higher. If you upgrade the stun action, then you get to actually re-roll the die that you used for it and use it for another action right away. You can't use another die in between, but it effectively gives you a 4th action on your turn, so that's a good option once you have upgraded it. You can't use it to take the stun action again, although you could take the stun action again with a different die later on. Next, we're going to look at Eliminate. This is how you're going to get rid of stomach cards that are potentially harmful to you as a miner. Again, you are going to look at the number of card away from you, so in this case a 2, that's the second most card, and you can destroy the stomach card there. However, it can't be just one by itself. You have to line up matching stomach cards with bacteria of the same color. So in this case, there are 2 of the same together, so you would eliminate both of them. If you had played a 3 in that instance, you would have eliminated the next 2 red cards instead. And this can be just a pair or as many as there are. So if you're able to group up multiple colors, then you can get rid of a lot of cards at once. Once this is done, any other cards will move forward to close whatever gaps are created, and that's going to change some of the dice that you might want to play for future actions once that occurs. If you upgrade the Eliminate action, you can also use it to target the beast's immune response cards if they have a matching number in the bottom right corner. Those can be very dangerous. They give the beast more skills. We'll get to those in a little bit. Finally, we'll look at the capture action. If you place a die there, then you will go to that number card, and you can capture something on it. In addition to bacteria, they will have an object, either a crystal or a tool. Crystals have different colors, and you can use those either to attempt to win the game or for points at the end of the game. You can only collect each crystal color once, so once you've collected it, then those cards are not going to be of interest to you for the capture action. The other ones have tools on them, and there are a variety of tools. If you capture one of those, you will need to have upgraded this action in order to do that. Then you're going to be able to use those on your turn for a variety of effects, such as adjusting your dice or playing around with the stomach cards in different ways. Different things that are going to be able to help you outside of strictly your primary actions. Once the miner has spent all 3 dice, that's when the bacteria are going to attack. Whatever stomach card is closest to them is going to move forward, be discarded, and that color bacteria is going to move up on the beast's personal track. This is dangerous because if one of those hits the end, the miner will lose immediately. So that's one reason they might want to move certain colors around to ensure that doesn't happen. If the miner survives the attack, then it becomes the beast's turn.
Now, the beast is not happy with whatever the miner did, so it's going to do its best to try to set up and make it more difficult for the miner to react on its next turn. Unlike the miner, you don't roll dice and choose your actions, you go through more of a step-by-step process. First up, you're going to have to fill up your gut here. The miner has taken out a lot of cards in this case, so you're going to have to fill that back up to 7. Now, you will start with 7 cards in your hand, and you may need to play at least enough to fill up the track. So in this case, I need to play at 5 more. If there's something up ahead you don't like, for example, there's a crystal, you can play more than the amount to push off the card, causing that to slide up. This is something the miner will need to keep an eye out for, as the beast can easily push up much wanted cards. After this track is filled, you will have the option to buy one of these immune response cards. Now, these not only give the beast more power, but they are a way to end the game for the beast. If you're able to acquire 5 of these, and the miner does not remove any of them at the end of their next turn, the beast wins. But it's not just about winning, they give good powers. For example, this one, when acquired, immediately causes them to gain a downgrade, pretty much they lose any upgrades they have, and usually has some passive effect as well. They'll usually say once per turn, after a certain phase. It could be about shuffling these around, hurting the miner even more. They're good things to have. In order to gain them, they have a cost in the upper left corner. You must have a total of crystals in your gut, plus cards discarded from your hand that don't have crystals in order to pay for that. This is why you'll want to have some crystals in there to make these cards cheaper to buy. However, there could be things like you need 3 of the same next to each other, or specific colors, or number of gems, so you're going to have to make sure you set up the track that way as well in order to buy the immune response card you want. Earlier, we mentioned how the miner gets attacked by bacteria. Well, the beast is going to end their turn by placing 1 card here. Now, it is face down, and what it shows is something like this. This is them trying to predict what bacteria will be the one to attack the miner. If they predict correctly, that's another way the miner can lose upgrades. Even scarier, if they haven't upgraded that action yet, that's a way that they could actually lose a crystal. So that can be really bad for the miner. Now, if you're anything like me and you're not sure what's going to go on, you can play the null card, which pretty much means nothing happens, and it does go back into your pile, so that will always be an available choice to you. That will end the beast's turn, and once again, return back to the miner. You will keep going until either the miner gets all his crystals, the beast evolves his bacteria enough, or his own gut immune responses, or at the very least, the miner passes through, and you just see who has the most victory points.
So this really is 2 very different games in one. As you saw, if you're playing as the miner, it's a dice placement game, whereas the beast has a hand management thing going on. And it's asymmetrical, so the 2 sides really are completely different, but they interact in a way, coming together on this board that feels natural, feels organic. If that's I don't know if that's a pun, because some things are being digested, organic food. I don't know. I tried, but they are married together in a way that both players meet with each other, but they're having 2 very different experiences. And that's true also for the solo mode. You can play as either the beast or the miner. So maybe you like one or the other better. You like that style of play. You really have 2 completely different options to try the game out as. So it's a very interesting hybrid of those 2 things. I mean, we've seen asymmetric games before, but usually the different factions or whatever it is are, even if they're very different, they kind of come together in the same like area control or whatever it is. This one I feel like is one of the few where it really is 2 totally different genres.
In my mind, and yes, this is a bit more competitive because this is a head-to-head game, it sort of reminds me of those level-making games or something like Mario Maker, when the beast is more like making the level. You're trying to set up all these traps and make it difficult for the miner, while the miner's actually Mario, or the player, going through it. He has to decide what tools does he want to get, how does he gather those resources, what can he get away with or not pick up. So and how to like make it harder for the beast to make up the next level. Like, does he take a lot of cards out of play? Does he leave a lot there? You know, things like that. Two asymmetrical games we love, Root and Cthulhu Wars. In the end, you're still usually taking out the other person's units. You know, like you're both trying to do that. You're not going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, another comparison maybe that's not quite the same, but it's like a GM and a player in a role-playing game, right? As you said, you're kind of laying out the path and the other player is going through it, except now you're actively trying to stop the other player from accomplishing their goals.
That depends on the GM.
Yeah, it depends on what game it is. But in this one, at least, you are definitely competing. And you do benefit if you play from both sides, because as you said, if you come back and you are more familiar with what the other player is doing, there's going to be a lot more areas of your brain activated on your turn because you know, oh, they could do this or they could do that, and that's going to help you strategize so you can try to read what they're going to do. In some cases, literally, as with the beast, where they want to predict one of the things that they think the miner is going to do. It is definitely important to be aware of all those aspects and be focused on them. At least it will, I think, after your first couple of plays, enhance the way you feel about the game and make your strategies deeper and more interesting.
Yeah, I'm really happy that they have the fake prediction card, because I am not the best at predicting anyone's
Human
actions.
beings.
Yes, I'm not good at reading people. So I'm gonna need to do that unless I'm really certain they're gonna do something, which, as Jonathan has shown me, still might not be the case.
Yeah, you can kind of try to. It depends on the player. Like if you know what kind of strategies they take, you might be able to more so read the board. But with humans, there's always going to be like a wild card, where they're
and not only that. Remember, as the beast, you're probably setting up the board in a way, and especially if you get some of those powers that allow you to swap things, you can make it like, I'm gonna make this unbelievably tempting for you, but that means I probably predicted you to do that. And then you get into that head game space of like, Princess Bride. I think that that I know that that I know that.
Yeah, and you also don't know what they're going to roll still. So the dice that they get can always be different. And I will say, I think from the miner perspective, it doesn't feel like you usually have a good range of actions. Of course, like any dice game, you can run into, you don't roll the numbers that you need, but they have nice options for, I think, allowing you to get extra actions and things, so you can usually make something work for you.
It wasn't, at least from what I felt like, it wasn't like if I roll a 6, my whole turn's gone. It's more of like, if I didn't roll a 6, I guess I'm going to have to do this instead, which I'm not as optimal anymore, but if I roll a 6, I'm about to ruin the beast's day, It never felt like there was like you lose everything. I think that's when you have bad dice games. Is like if you roll the wrong numbers, you don't do anything, and it never felt like that.
Yeah, I agree. There's always something that you can try to do until maybe the very end when you start to get down to the wire. But that's when it's exciting, is when, whatever move someone makes could end the game. And the people from the company that we got to talk to, and we did our demo of this online, said that they kind of they think the best outcome is usually if neither player meets their goal and you go to points. That's a little bit more exciting. And again, playing more and being able to play both sides will really develop how much you understand and how much you think you understand about the board state at any given time. A lot of interesting stuff in here, and in addition to those solo modes, you can play this with no players by pitting the two AIs against each other, which is great. Who doesn't love that?
I mean, I cannot think of a game that does that. It reminds me of like, there's some video games you're like, I just want to see what happens if I put all CPUs on. We'll see what happens.
The bots fight it out. You don't have time to play games. You don't have to. You can buy this and it will literally play itself. So how's that for a selling point? This is from designer Scott Alms, who has done A lot of good designs, tiny epic games, other things you're probably familiar with. And the art is Kwanchai Moria, and I'm probably mispronounced both of those names just now, but that's fine. But who has done stuff like Dinosaur Island, really eye-popping visual stuff. I think if you like a head-to-head two-player game with asymmetric abilities, this is a very unique take on that concept, and it's worth looking out. Where can they look out for it, Will?
Well, I'm told in space, but if you're unable to get out there, it's on Kickstarter still right now, so you can run over there and hopefully there's still time left for you to back it.
That's right. The link will be in our description down below. Let us know what you think in the comments of So You've Been Eaten. And until we hear from you again, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Get an inspiration token by supporting us on Patreon and liking and subscribing to this channel.
If you support us on Patreon, you'll get access to our audio expansion podcast. It's so good.